Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Mbira. I'm a certified program and project manager. In this video, I'm going to take you through episode number 3, which is going to focus on planning and scope management, where I'm going to share with you lessons that I've learned through my experience. Managed 15 projects successfully, and therefore it is paramount for me to share with you these lessons for your use in the current project or in any future projects. So let's get into the details. Lesson number 24. Always have a phase-driven project. This is paramount. You cannot just run projects. Say, for example, these are long projects, long-term projects that might run for 10 or 20 years, or even 5 or 2 or 3 years. Always try to make sure that you break down the project into individual pieces and then try to deliver the project in a phase. By phase, I mean you complete one phase, you make it live, you take another phase, you make it live. I'm not talking of stages. Stages are part of a phase. So always make sure that every project you have a phase-driven approach. This has worked for me in so many projects. This has worked for me in so many programs. The moment you're able to break it into small pieces, that is quite important, and it's easier to manage and to control small chunks as compared to a bigger chunk. Lesson number 25. Clear requirements are always king. I will expand on this. If you don't have clear requirements and you're running a project as a project manager, you are running the risk of producing what will never be used by the users. You're running the risk of producing what will never be liked by the users. So always make sure that requirements are very clear. I would suggest that from my experience, it's better to spend more time understanding the requirements of the end user. End user is a group of people, a person who's going to use the end product. So if you don't consider their requirements properly, you might end up either overshooting budgets or reworking some of the items that you have done. So you must make sure that all requirements, they are well documented, well understood, and always sit with the user. Try to understand the requirements. Try to understand each and every point in their requirements as you come up with the deliverables for the project. Lesson number 26. Always define clear scope. Scope is the most dangerous parameter in a project if it's not managed properly. You should understand what is part of scope. You should understand what is not in the scope. If you don't clearly state that, you'll find that during the execution of the project, the end users or the person who is going to be using the end product, they might come with different requirements. They might come with additional requirements. They might come with additional changes. That is going to kill the project. So from the beginning, after understanding the requirements, make sure that you lock the scope. Anything else that comes, it must be taken through the change management process in the project. Otherwise, if you allow scope creep to be coming in each and every time, that is going to affect the project, and it's unlikely that you're going to complete that project. So make sure that you always have clear scope that is well defined, agreed, as well as signed between all the parties. That is the business, the customer, which is the person who's going to be using, or the department that is going to be using the product, supplier, the one who is responsible for delivering the deliverables. So that is very important. Always make sure that is clear, well defined, documented, and signed off. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, the subscribe button, so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. Lesson number 27. Scope creep is a killer. In the previous lesson, we have discussed the importance of scope, but also you must be able to control scope creep. What do you mean by scope creep? These undesired or undocumented requirements that are always coming late into the project. They start small, and then you end up with a big list of requirements that can affect the project. So scope creep is a killer. It should be controlled in each and every project. Don't always allow scope creep to come through from whatever form without proper approval through either a change board or through even the project board. Lesson number 28. Realistic timelines are very important. When you're doing your scheduling of a project or assignment of time to your project, days or weeks, just make sure that at least you're making it as realistic as possible. How do you do that? You make sure that you have identified all the risks associated with that activity. Once you are able to identify the risks, you are able even to put buffer. So always try to put buffer to make your plan or your schedule realistic. In each and every stage or step in a project, always make sure that you have realistic timelines so that you don't disappoint when it comes to delivering what is expected in the project. That is very important. I've used that skill for a long time. Each time you have end timelines, try to always put a buffer, just in case. There is no a straightforward method to say 2%, 2 days, 3 weeks, 1 year, 4 years. You just have to use your logic. You just have to use the situation on the ground. You just have to use the facts that you have on the project. But always make sure that you have the buffer to make sure you deliver the project. Lesson number 29. Always align project goals with business objectives. This is very important. You don't want to run a project in isolation. It must be linked to the benefit of either the organization or the business. Don't run a project in isolation. If there's no link between your objectives, your goals, the business values, objectives and goals, then it does not make sense for you to continue running that project. Unless if you want to take a step backwards, make sure you clearly revisit the objectives and the goals of the project and also align it with the business objective. Lesson number 30. Prioritize tasks efficiently. This is very important. You should not spend more time, energy, resources on tasks which are not very, very critical. So once you prioritize your tasks, you are able to know that I have to put more effort and resources on these particular ones because they are high priority tasks as compared to low priority tasks. This is very important. Don't start with low priority tasks. You spend a lot of energy, you spend a lot of time, resources, and then you try to tackle the high priority tasks at the end of the day. The advantage of focusing on high priority tasks is if users or the owners of the project or the beneficiaries of the project, they are going to start to see results as early as possible because the high priority items have already been put in place as compared to start with the low priority where there's no visibility and even the users might not be satisfied with what they are seeing. Lesson number 31. Always plan for resource constraints. Yes, there are some projects where there is abundance of resources, but most projects, they are constrained in terms of resources. This could be human resources or non-human resources. So you should always plan for these constraints. It could be because of time, resources, it could be because of time, it could be because of costs, it could be any other causes that might cause the project to delay. So it is very important as a project manager to always plan for resource constraints. You will always face resource constraints. One way or the other, one phase or the other, you always face a resource constraint. So you should plan for that. If, say, for example, you want to have 10 resources, plan for 8 in case you don't get 2. But if you use those 8, are you going to be able to deliver the project? If no, what can you put in place to make sure that you support those 8 resources, human resources, to deliver the project? So always make sure that you are planning for resource constraints. That is one of the lessons that I've learned through my experience. If you don't plan for resource constraints, and then if it happens, it will stop the project. It has got a high risk of even paralyzing everyone from moving forward. So always make sure that you plan for resource constraints. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, the subscribe button, so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. Lesson number 32. Always maintain flexibility in your planning. Don't go to planning stage with the mind that I just have to do it in 2 days, for example, in 1 year, with 10 resources or 50 resources. Things can change along the way. As you run the project from one phase to the other, you find that situations can change. Leadership can change, environment can change. I can give you a good example of what we had for COVID. No one was ever planning for COVID, but it happened. So that is very important. You should always have some flexibility. The important thing, like what we discussed in the previous lesson, is you should always plan for constraints. So in your plan, you must have a buffer, just in case. So the reason for you to do that, if there's a problem, at least you have already accommodated that problem to some extent in your plan. So the impact is going to be reduced. It's not going to be as high as someone who has never considered that particular item to have a possibility of happening. So that is very important. Always make sure that your plan, it has some flexibility. Always revise your plan. Always go through your Gantt chart. Always go through all your dates. Just make sure that things are okay. Always make sure that all your resources, they are also in the good line. Lesson number 33. Avoid overcommitment. Most project managers, they make this mistake. They overcommit and underdeliver. That is very, very dangerous, especially in terms of your integrity. So just make sure that each and every time you are making a commitment, to some extent, you are very sure of what you're committing to. If you're not very sure, there's nothing wrong in you asking for more time to assess the situation, asking for more time to consult, asking for more time to revisit your strategies. But don't overcommit. Overcommitment is very dangerous. No one is going to trust you in future. Lesson number 34. You should always balance on quality, scope, and budget. This is very important. Most people, they tend to focus, or most project managers, they tend to focus only on one parameter. Say, for example, budget. They are no longer concerned about scope. they're no longer concerned about quality. That is not good for the project. You should always balance your quality, scope, and budget. There are cases where you have to compromise on some scope for you to move forward, but within the same budget, within the same quality. So you need to be moving around with these three parameters: your quality, your scope, and your budget. Just to make sure that at least your decisions, they are guided with facts in such a way that you are moving forward. Don't use your emotions to make any of those decisions. So always make sure that you are balancing between quality, scope, and budget. That's a very important lesson. Lesson number 35. Always set realistic milestones. This is very important. I've learned my lessons through this. What is a milestone? A milestone is a very important achievement or conclusion in a project. So these milestones are normally celebrated in most cases, or they are normally announced to the team so that it can boost the team morale. Always make sure that you're setting up realistic milestones. That is very important. That is very, very important as a project manager. Always. Lesson number 36. Buffer time is non-negotiable. As a project manager, you must make sure that you always have buffer when you're doing any of your project planning. Always make sure your timelines, they have a buffer. In most cases, 10 to 15%, I found it myself to be workable. This is good. If there's any unforeseen delays, at least you have enough time to recover without asking for additional approvals. So depending on what are you looking at, it could be a baseline, cost baseline. Always make sure you have a buffer for the cost baseline. It could be milestone baseline. It could be time baseline. It could be even assumptions or technical baselines. Always make sure that at least you have some buffer of some sort for each and every parameter that you know if it's not concluded, you're going to require approval either from the project board or from the corporate or the organization. So that is very important. You should always make sure that you have buffer. 10 to 15% is workable. I've tried it myself. It has worked. That is why I'm sharing with you. We have reached the end of this video. I would encourage you to also watch the next episode. If you want me to create any additional videos based on the lessons that we have gone through in this video, let me know in the comment section below.